We're on. Good evening, folks. Today is September 1st, 2016. This is the Newmarket School Board. It's just past 7 o'clock p.m. And I'll call the meeting to order and invite everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The school board met last week at this same time and place, but 1 week ago. That was a full agenda, and we did well. This agenda looks like we all might go home for dinner. I'd open it up. That was to just waste time to give the stragglers a minute, because I know they want to come for public comment. I'd open it up now to public comment. Recognizing that everyone is here. Everyone that is here either has a purpose for being here, a reason to be here, or has just smiled at me and said no thanks. I'll close public comment and alert the board that the calendar was in the packet. I don't know that there was anything there that was new from what we talked about at our last meeting. So,
Bingo will be starting up again for Project Graduation. I know you're all excited.
Saturday morning still?
Yes, and I will have all the dates for you.
Cool.
Next meeting.
Right now, I think from a calendar perspective, today's the 1st of September, the first Thursday. The board will attempt to rock and roll with its first and third again, like we had. We got a little disjointed with some of our dates over the summer, but that's the way summer goes. So I'd ask the superintendent to update us with her report. Anything that you've got?
Well, actually, I'm going to let our administrators lead off, if
Oh,
that's
good.
okay.
Please do.
We'll indulge them since it's their first week of school.
Good evening.
Just kind of here to fill you in on about the first couple days of school. First of all, I have to say thank you for the end of the road. Hopefully we won't have a pond the next time it rains. Looks awesome. So I used to joke around and said we could flood it for a skating rink later on. But just kind of getting back to the first couple days, we had opening day with our staff at the Newmarket Elementary School with both the high school and the elementary school staff. It was also the first time in which we invited the paras to be there. So the para-educators were there for both days, which is a great thing. I hope we continue that practice. It gave an opportunity for them to be part of the planning. Also, it gave them opportunity for some professional development that frees up some time during the school year. So kudos to having the paraprofessionals there this year. Newmarket Elementary School, we didn't see significant changes in terms of new staff. We do have a new staff, school psychologist, Peter Natov. He just joined us this year. We did have some shifting of people that were previously either tutors or paras. Victoria Courier, who has been with us for many years as a reading tutor, is now a fourth grade teacher. We had Heather Miller, who was an ESOL tutor, actually take Victoria's position as a reading tutor. And Allison Friedland, who was a para last year, who we never knew was highly certified as an ESOL teacher, came in and filled into the position where Heather was the ESOL last year. Kind of looking at a school theme, last year we talked about developing themes for each year. The theme we're using this year is to pay it forward, not only for the staff, but that will be something I'll be speaking to the kids after the holidays, going into classrooms and just talking about what it means to pay it forward. Enrollment, we're up this year. We started last year at 335. As of yesterday afternoon, we had 555 kids. That's including preschool. Had a big bumps in fifth grade in particular. Had a lot of fifth grade move in. So I guess we got...
How big is the fifth grade this year?
We have 101 kids in fifth grade. And kindergarten is at 84, and we just found out we're having one more come and join us as well. So our numbers are up, which is good for job security. Hooray. We spoke briefly with my staff about a building goal. The district initiative is to be using data At the building level, we've said that we want to make sure that our teachers are more effectively using data to differentiate instruction in the classroom for the kids. So that's going to be the building level goal, and something that we'll focus on development this year when we have days to do workshops with the teachers as well. Just a couple quick dates. We have a parent back-to-school night on the 15th of September, running from 6 to 7 o'clock. And we have our picture day on the 16th. It's great to be up and about. I've been into a lot of classrooms this year. The opening was very smooth. And I, thank my staff for that. They do a phenomenal job in getting the kids. And these first 4 days really have settled in, and look forward to hitting the ground running after Labor Day. Any questions at all? Or?
No.
Nope.
Sounds
I
great.
interrupted you and asked a question. Sorry.
All right, thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sean.
Sean.
Has he been in front of us before, your deputy?
That's all part of
Is it?
what I'm about to do.
Okay,
Here we go
sorry.
But I'm going to start with the most important,
Stop
like we always
interrupting.
do, which is our students. And I'm going to start with the student report. So Julia did forward that to me. Julia is at
Oh,
a
great.
soccer game this evening, so if I could switch roles, I hope I can pull it off as well as Julia does. Obviously, Monday was the first day of school, as you heard from Mr. Pine. We welcome many new staff and students as well. There'll be no school tomorrow through Monday. And as far as sports, boys soccer, when Julia wrote this was 0-1, but right now in real time they're tied 4-4. So we're hoping that they even up in Moultonborough. And girls soccer just won, so they are now 2-0. The first meet, it will be tonight for cross country at Gunstock, and I don't have results for that yet. Picture day will be Wednesday the 7th. We'll be holding a senior parent financial aid meeting Wednesday the 14th. That'll be at the elementary school at 6 p.m. She did add a few things for elementary school age students. 4th and 5th grade cross-country meet is Wednesday the 14th. And Stratum and picture day for them will be on Friday. Exciting thing we did today is we unveiled what the themes would be for homecoming week. And that was pretty neat. We did it in the school-wide assembly. So homecoming week is the 19th through the 23rd. So they're already working furiously on their lip syncs, which will be counted for points once again. And that was one of the things that was really, really neat to get used to as a new person here. So I'm excited. And then I'll sort of move on. Open house for parents is the 21st at 6 p.m., which is right in the middle of homecoming week. So this should be pretty festive. So that's Julia's report. I'm going to switch over and put on my principal's hat for the first time. And the first thing that I want to do is just sort of go through some highlights as Sean did. But before that, there's some signs around town. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, and I apologize for this visual. But Staff Sergeant Travis Mills, who was one of the quadruple amputee Iraq war veterans, will be coming to speak to our students during the day, but then on the 29th at night to the general public. Tickets are on sale. They're $10. The proceeds for that event go to the Mills Foundation, which is a retreat for wounded veterans and their families. Sergeant Mills, and if you want to sort of do some research, his website's robust. But one of the things he found through his message, which obviously was in the face of some sheer adversity, was to never give up. But he used that to start a retreat for wounded veterans and their families. He found that a lot of times there was some available for wounded veterans, but to be able to extend that to families and include them on retreats, getaways, and vacation as part of the healing process and getting back to normal life was really important. So all the proceeds benefit that, and it's pretty amazing. Tickets are going fast, so if you want to talk through any of the PSO reps or contact us at the school, we can help you purchase those. So that's pretty exciting. I'll talk about our enrollment a little bit, and we did welcome quite a few new staff members, and we've gone through that. So we had a great first day as well. I echo Mr. Pine's sentiments with regard to including all members of our faculty in the first couple of days of planning, which has been really great. And there's just such a great renewed energy and vigor district-wide, which is really, really awesome to talk about. It feels really good to be able to say that. So thank you for that. Enrollment-wise, we are at 497 total students, which is, again, an uptick and a trend that's continuing. Our smallest classes, our current graduating seniors at 54. And our largest class, we're at 94 for our 7th grade. And we're looking forward to Sean's 105 incoming 6th graders next year. So it's pretty interesting, and to put it in perspective, I think over the last 3 years, we end up with about 114 more students than we had at this time 3 years ago. So that's just a pretty interesting way to think about it. And I'd like to welcome our new assistant principal, Mr. Matt Foster. So Matt is going to come up here and let you guys put him on the hot seat. But Matt comes with 10 plus years of educational experience at both the high school and middle school level. He's got a background in math and science, most recently at Noble High School. He lives in southern Maine with his 2 kids and comes from a family of educators, but I'm gonna let him come up and talk, and you get to ask him lots of questions. So thank you. Come on up.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm excited to be here. It's been a great, well, I've been on board since July 1, really, but the past 4 days have been the highlight of that time. Getting to know the kids and the faculty and the community members and the parents. Sort of that's kind of my passion is communities and schools, and really learning about how we work together, not just within the confines of our building, but what the communities can offer the schools and what the schools can offer the communities. A lot of students to learn names over the past 4 days, and hopefully over the next 4 days I don't forget them before I see them again. But it's been a great time. I've had the privilege of being in a few different districts for a lot of different reasons, school visits or work or whatever it might be, and I can honestly say that the excitement and the energy here is second to none. The pride that the residents and the community members of Newmarket have in what is happening here is second to none, and I'm so excited to be a part of this team. If you have any questions for me, feel free.
I don't know about you guys, but I was hearing good things before the school year started, so there were already ripples through the student body. Hey, he's so cool. Him and Maz, we're in good shape now, boy. So they seem to like what's coming. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Unless you're part of the senior class.
I'm sure.
Then,
Not
they
as
like
exciting.
you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
fine.
Good, all right.
The world's hatest man is over there.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for the opportunity. to be a
Welcome
part of
aboard.
this.
Thank you. Mr. Brazzoni, thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it.
Good evening.
Hey.
So I kind of talk about what's going to be happening in this new position as assistant superintendent. District grants is something that is on my plate first and foremost, which are due, and been working through that. So that's our Title I and Title II grants, which helps us obtain a teaching member at the elementary school, which is our Title I school, and the resources and supplies that go along with that. Your Title II grant is more of the professional development that we can offer to all staff and parents to get them up to date of what we're doing in our building. So those grants have been submitted. Our Title II has been accepted. Title I has had some fine tuning and should be submitted and should be completed by the end of this week. So we're looking good for our district grants. Gene Parsons and I will be going for Title III. It's a consortium grant, which helps out for students of speaking different languages, and grant money that can come and support that. There's a consortium meeting on the 23rd, which is a half day, so it's perfect for us to secure some more grant money in that aspect. So that's your district grant update. We're in good shape with there. To the future, a lot of the work for the assistant superintendent will be curriculum meetings, curriculum and instruction. And as you know, through the current contract, there's 2 1.5-hour meetings with myself and all of the staff. We were able to, at the end of last year, schedule those out. So October and March, the 2 meeting times after school. Some groups are going to go before school. The way we broke it down this year is rather than meeting with just the elementary school and 50 teachers with 50 different ideas, broke it down with the work of Sean and Chris to be able to meet with them at grade level and department level at the junior, senior high school. So a lot of meetings, but I think a lot of purposeful meetings to get to the crux of what we need in regards to curriculum and instruction and review at each grade level. Writing is a significant impact right now. The use of Amy and data is really taking off, which is far to none to a lot of districts. We're ahead of what a lot of people are doing, but we can get better and further that. So those are a lot of things that we'll be working on. And at the end of the year, I hope to give you a report on what each group has been doing and how we've proceeded. The NEAS special report is due in October, so I'll be finishing that up with Mr. Mazzoni, and then he gets to take over the realm of that. But I didn't think it was fair to leave that with him. But that special report's to look at. As you know, we're on conditional certification from NEASC, and a lot of it is due to our facility. So even though we continue with our fire and life safety upgrades and our facilities meetings, it's still a concern to them. So we will not, and they've told us, until we have some solution on the table that we can say is voted on and the town has accepted it. So that's the one thing that's holding us back. Really able to meet a lot of their points and the other 6 standards that we can highlight of what we do. Advisory being something that's one of the most impressive things, and that's been noted in a lot of the things that they do when they visit here. And then the last thing you're gonna see me come back, we are up for our professional development plan for the state, which impacts certification for our teachers. So a committee, we met today as a professional development committee. We will kind of narrow that down and have a group of administrators and teachers in the support of Amy and the teachers union to revise that plan. And we are working with the state to finalize that and get that done by the end of the year. So that's a plan that you're going to see on how we do recertification. So those are the major themes as well as things that come up, but you'll be seeing me a lot more in regards to curriculum, professional development, and instruction as the year goes on. So thank you. It's been great, and I appreciate the leadership that is occurring. So that's a positive, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you.
That's great.
So with all of that, there's not a lot left for me to say other than it's been, as I think Matt said, we all start, those of us who are new started July 1, and Chris started in his new role July 1, and we work really hard in the summer to get things ready, and then we kind of get a little restless until students arrive. And now they're here. So it's been really great, I think, for all of us to be in buildings with students and feel that energy and excitement. And I know our staff have been very enthusiastic and welcoming as we've been walking around. And, I've witnessed dismissal at the elementary school and arrival, which can best be described as organized chaos. It's very crowded. And we look forward to pursuing some solutions on that front as we move forward with the facilities direction. But
Sean made that better. You missed it 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was worse.
I can well imagine. But, we have gotten all of our students to and from school safely, and we're grateful for that. The transportation company has been terrific, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. The other things I want to update you on, and again, we'll talk about business administrator piece in a little bit, but we have financial reports that were due to the state September 1st. We've completed part of those. I reached out to our liaison at the state to say, geez, I think one of these reports is going to be a little late. He said, if 30% of the schools in the state get that report in on time, it's a miracle, so don't worry about it. I said, thank you for making us feel better, but we'll have it to you within a reasonable amount of time. And no formal written extension is required as long as we're able to complete that this month, which we anticipate being able to do.
So the bigger thing, I think we've talked, the bigger thing is to make sure the town knows.
Correct.
Because they're the only ones the state doesn't care as much as the town does, because some of those reports are required for the tax rate setting.
Yes,
But
and-
I haven't
and
known
they
us to
will
set
be
the tax rate
complete
before
the end of
middle of
September.
October anytime, so, yeah.
We
Thank you.
anticipate being on track for that.
Sounds good.
Sadly, though our year is just beginning, budget process will also be beginning. And so we've begun some preliminary discussions about that, particularly on the capital improvements planning front. And, as we are looking at facility solutions, determining how best to craft a CIP plan that would be in place if we don't move forward with other facility solutions is going to be important. We've had some preliminary conversations about that, sort of mapping out if we don't move forward with facility solutions, what would be required. So we'll be presenting that to the CIP committee most likely in late October, early November. They were very supportive of our timeline and very understanding of the fact that schools are just getting underway, and asking us to bring our complete CIP list to them in the month of September is a rather onerous task. So thank you to the CIP committee members for that. And I think I will leave it at that. We have a lot going on in the month of September, but we'll talk about some of the other topics in a little bit.
Okay, any questions from Eric? We have to continue to just say it out loud because it's so true. It's just so nice to have you and this outstanding team.
Yeah.
because
Great team.
there certainly is less for us to think about or worry about or involve ourselves in. And and we appreciate that.
I don't want to forget to mention that there will be a memorial bench fundraiser in honor of Mary Jane Sullivan on September 9th at 8 p.m. at the Mill Space. So Justin McKinney is performing. There's a $7 admission, and so that information is posted outside.
I didn't know that's what it was for,
Yes.
and I had to buy tickets.
What day, when is that?
The
It
night,
is
Friday
on
night.
September 9th,
Wow.
next Friday.
Justin with an O.
Just on time.
Just on time. Excellent. Okay. Next up, under items for discussion, the superintendent and I were talking, Meredith, one of the nice things that we're benefiting from is that Meredith has opened the policy book and is paying attention to policies that we didn't necessarily pay attention to or know were there. Next step will be to amend some of those so that we can get rid of some steps that I don't know that we need. So let me throw this out. One of the things that by policy the board is supposed to do is adopt, if you will, or accept bus routes. We have had a committee, a roster assignment basically for one individual to be on the transportation committee, which we have traditionally said only mattered when the business office was trying to negotiate maybe a new agreement with the bus company. On occasion, that person might be called in to kind of connect with the superintendent's office about changes to be made. In my experience, not every board reads through and accepts or adopts bus routes, but ours are on the website and they're working. And I told Meredith, go ahead, put it on the agenda, and that we would vote to accept our bus routes. We must have done it at some point previously, but they get tweaked every year a little bit to reflect where the kids are. And but unless you folks are aware of any concerns,
Does it come out my way?
does it go all the way out there? There's
You
gotta
have
be
to
a
give
bus-
me a
there's
little
gotta be
more
bus
to
that
go
goes
on.
down line, yeah.
We haven't seen one yet. We get the Newfields bus. They turn around in my driveway.
I don't know, but at the same time, I haven't had
I didn't
phone
look
calls
either.
from anyone.
Yeah. Well, it's because
She's
I'm
the only one out there.
Meredith.
Transportation. So if
She's about
that's
as
an
far
issue,
from me to Mazzoni
um,
from the town lines.
okay.
I haven't called yet either, because we haven't utilized it, but, so I will call you, or I'll call.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it. Certainly, typically we pick up anyone beyond a mile, but our routes are published online, and
I'm like 10 miles, so we're good.
I think you're covered.
Definitely be, there's a bus that's gotta go out in that
There's
direction.
definitely a bus
Yeah,
out
there's
there.
definitely a
Yeah,
bus,
and
yeah.
again, if there hasn't been ridership, there may not have been a stop designated, but
Right.
certainly, we can review that.
Yep.
And again, if you are a family at home who is saying, but we don't know what's going on with the transportation routes, please reach out to your school principal, and we will
All right.
chase that down for you.
But if we okay it, we can still change it.
Oh, yeah, we can still change. The superintendent, if you go back and read the policy, the superintendent can can make changes to reflect student addresses and so on and so forth, things that we need to change. But the policy kind of leaves it out there that the board actually accepts the route. So until we clean up the policy, what I told her I would look for is a motion of the board to simply accept the posted bus routes. And-
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So, again, to everybody that might be watching or has a concern, please spread the word. The routes are posted, and they're running, and we've successfully gotten the kids to school and home again. If anybody finds that they have concerns, there's definitely a process. They can reach out to the schools, the superintendent's office, and let us know. Part of what should happen over time is that over the summer, the bus company would have received updated addresses and would have said, oh, wow, there's a kindergartner there, we want to go, or there's somebody in a development that we've never been to before, et cetera, so. On a motion from Ms. McKinney, a second from Ms. Shelton to approve the transportation routes of our buses as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, please signify your agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous. So, we had our retreat on Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, and as a culmination of that, lots of things maybe, but most specifically, draft goals that we looked at here a week ago. We said we would take them under advisement, consider any revisions, and bring them to this meeting to consider adoption. So the board goals as revised were in the packet. Let me read them, I think, for public consumption, and then we can discuss each one. The first is engage community stakeholders through regular communication and interaction to inform residents and advance confidence. Parenthetically, we talked about electronic and print newsletters, updating and using our website, conducting public forums. Part of the conversation the board had was that we wanted to make it, and again, these are not district-wide goals, these are the 5 of us goals. We wanted to continue the work of connecting with our public, our residents, building confidence, credibility, and trust in the community for the work of the board and with the board. And so that was how we so far have wrapped up that goal. Any thoughts? Any wordsmithing? Anything, you guys? Okay. The second goal then is review standard procedures for board governance and align practice with policy and statute. Again, parenthetically, we talked about what are the format of our meetings going to be, how will we use retreats, what are our roles and responsibilities. In our retreat 2 weeks ago, we talked some about roles and responsibilities of the board versus the superintendent and the administration, et cetera. And policy review, which is one of the 3 biggies, right? I mean, the 3, if you boil it down for public consumption, the 3 big responsibilities of a board are hire a superintendent,
Policy.
deal with, manage policy, and establish a budget. So this goes back to our conversation about, we know that we have been more executive over the last year or so, and now with a new full-time superintendent and leadership team behind her, we want to step back into more of an advisory and policy role and not be quite so executive, and find our role, and then find our regular process for governing, which should match standards or statute and policy, but it hasn't always. Sometimes we've stepped away from our policy because we kind of felt we had to, but we want to get back to that. So again, any wordsmithing, suggestion, things we can change about that goal to try to align how we go about doing this with our own policies. Okay? The third then is deliver to the community an actionable, long-term facilities solution that addresses the needs of the Newmarket School District. It doesn't need a whole lot of discussion or explanation. I mean, we're looking at finding solutions for both our elementary and our junior, senior high school to meet all of the educational facility needs of our school district and students. Any thoughts? Okay. Is it the pleasure of the board then to consider a motion to adopt those board goals for 2016-17 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I think it just speaks to what several people have spoken to already this meeting about the energy that I feel in the district from Meredith coming in, new people in different roles. It's a very exciting time. And I think for me serving on the board, it's exciting for us to really look at what our goals are going to be and what we're going to do as a group of 5 to help the district move beyond what we can imagine. So it's exciting.
It's excellent, thank you.
I thought the retreats were very helpful, and I think it'll be helpful that we've sort of set up a process for, making them regular. It's really, I suppose, we've turned the corner in that regard from putting out fires to moving things forward, which is refreshing, and let's hope we can get the facilities thing behind us and in a good fashion and focus on all those things that we identified. I was amazed at the, Meredith, I forget what term you used, alignment or overlap of the different groups who have contributed already. I mean, we're all saying essentially the same things, seeing the same things.
That's great. Excellent. I have a motion then from Mr. Kennison, a second from Ms. McKinney to adopt the school board goals as presented here this evening. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Then we're unanimous. Thank you very much. I know we will, but let me just say, if we can take those and adopt those, get those up somewhere so that they can, thank you very much. I said it earlier, I said it last week, I think, but if I didn't say it when the camera was running, let me just say out loud. I use these continuing items, or have in the past, maybe it was Meredith I was telling, put these continuing items on here because I wanted to make sure that those were continued agenda items so that under policy, public comment should be about agenda items, so I've left those. Again, not expecting that there'll be a report out every time by anybody special, but I know that Meredith is probably ready to walk us through some of the items under the Shared Services Initiative.
Sure. So we spoke just last week about the job descriptions that weren't in your
Folks,
packet.
good night. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. But not in your packet were these job descriptions that are now included. One for a Director of Facilities position, which, as we discussed last week, would be a town position, though a shared position would report to the town administrator. And then the second being that of Business Manager / Town Finance Director. And that is the one that we are hopeful that you would adopt tonight or at a not too distant future meeting.
So you want to deal with, you want to talk about facilities first? That was, no.
Well, so again, I think we spoke about facilities a little bit last week.
That's-
Again, the intention is that this would be a shared position, again, between school and municipality, reporting to the town administrator, but overseeing facilities on both sides. So this would be our point person working with our head custodians at both buildings. The hope would be that this person on the school side is coordinating a long-term capital and maintenance plan, so that we don't have facilities continuing to deteriorate, but that we are sort of thoughtfully planning for how to maintain them moving forward. It is a person who will oversee our custodial staff. It is a person who will coordinate the work of buildings and grounds in terms of outside maintenance as well, coordinating work with the town around fields. It's a pretty lengthy list. I mean, they'll take on all of those budgetary responsibilities. Again, our hope is that, you know, having someone who has a solid background in facilities will allow us to have to contract out fewer services long-term, to save money by combining some of those contracted services that we do need to invest in. And again, really, I think it's about that long-term planning piece that just hasn't been in place, the nature of the positions that we do have. You know, our facilities people are busy all day long, addressing issues, you know, on the day-to-day basis in our schools. And I can tell you from a recent meeting with our former facilities director, Bob French, that, you know, he worked tirelessly just to maintain the state of our existing buildings, but he wasn't a person who could step back and map out what's that long-range capital improvements plan look like. He wasn't the person who was in a position to sort of chase down bids and look at those pieces. Some of that was done by former superintendents, some of that was done by former business managers, but not necessarily people with real expertise in facilities. So we think this will be a great position for both town and school.
And that removes one title from the business administrator as well.
Exactly.
So I would offer, I mean, I'll let others. Any thoughts, feedback for
I think this is
Meredith and
something
Steve?
we were looking for,
Yeah.
need this?
yeah.
We need it not only just because it's the sound thing to do, and it's not just for saving money, but it's also for quality of our experience in these facilities and buildings and safety and efficiency and longevity of our systems. We need it pretty immediately, because the DOE changed their regs a couple of years ago. When you are applying for school aid, which we'll do, you gotta submit a pretty detailed maintenance plan. So, and
And somebody has to manage that.
specialized knowledge, you know, and I'll just tell you, from going to other schools about this time last year when we're searching for the architect, I mean, the most of the people who took us through those were these facilities managers. They knew every inch of the school. They had programs and/or town buildings. Programs, there was one, I keep mentioning it, School Dude, that ran everything, scheduling. There was no, like, you know, if you needed a new light bulb, there was a process for, for submitting
Is
that.
that one you guys have used in Cape Elizabeth too?
Yes.
Because
it's
it came
pretty
up when we were there.
commonly-
It's, yeah, it's not,
But
we found it was
they're
common, we hadn't heard of it until we started that, but I mean, it'd just be really nice to have all this in one centralized place, and especially if we're gonna be commissioning a new building too, you know, HVAC is this language all of its own and in an art form, to learn how to use and effectively, so,
Yeah, controls today are much
Oh.
more sophisticated than,
Yeah.
you know, your home thermostat.
right.
Um,
So this is good.
So the tipping point for me, not that I always felt like it was strange that Newmarket, as a resident in the schools, knowing that there wasn't somebody in facilities, I saw things like, you know, this flap of metal on the tail of the modular as I walked with my kids by the playground 10 years ago, and I thought, I wonder who would ever see that? Whose job is it to ever walk this place around and see that and then deal with it? But the moment that was so crucial or critical to me was the night that the building officer,
Mike.
Anyway, Hoffman stood here and talked to us about the modular that we got rid of and showed pictures where the cinder block foundation that was placed under the modular was oriented improperly, so that the strength of the cinder block was lost and the thing eventually crumbled and led us to having some of the problems that we had with those structures. And I thought, number one, the contractor who dropped this in place should have known better, but number two, somebody representing our interests as a district and community should have been peekabooing that thing over. And you're not going to expect any of the office situated, you know, folks to be out there necessarily catching that. So the only comment that I would have is to that end, in the situations where I found the greatest success in districts, we've had people that have been, who have largely carried an engineering background. Not PEs necessarily with a stamp, but a bachelor's in engineering that have been through some of the schooling. And so under education certification, it says high school diploma or equivalent, college degree or post-secondary training. I don't know that we want to legislate that they must have a bachelor's or that they must have engineering, but if the preferences and sometimes the language says preferred, I mean, obviously somebody with a background that, you know, either experiential or education that allows them to design some of these specifications, to read a specification and know what is right or wrong or what should be included or left out.
Nate, my thought on both these positions, the facilities position and the business manager finance person, is that they should be experts in their field
Yeah.
with unique knowledge germane to whatever their specificity is, so that we can get that level of service and utilize that expertise in all ways.
Amen. Agreed.
I just, well, it's on my mind too, I want to make sure that we're acknowledging the maintenance personnel that we do have. who've
Absolutely.
Oh,
done
yeah.
I mean, I
tremendous,
can
like
tell you from
Bob,
sitting with
former, but Brian as well.
Brian and
They-
Jamie
they
are
do an awesome job.
extremely knowledgeable about our schools.
They are.
And as individuals, they do an awesome job, and their crews do a terrific
Totally.
job. Our schools look remarkably good, given
Yeah.
some of the things that they're working with.
And because we're talking about a position that's going to chase facilities throughout the community, they're going to lean on those individuals in those schools
Absolutely.
because they won't be eyes and ears in those buildings every single day because they've got multiple facilities around town to be responsible for.
This
So,
is going to pay for itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be huge. Okay, so,
So what I wrote in was, as we've written it, it says high school diploma or equivalent, college degree or post-secondary training in facilities maintenance, and I added or related field, which I think broadens that scope. Engineering would certainly be a related field, and
Perfect.
someone might be a mechanical engineer or.
Right. So is there anything else there? Is it the desire of the board to offer up our consensus on this or a
Yeah.
recommendation of it tonight?
Yeah, you
Well,
should.
yeah, we're not requiring you to approve, because this is a position that the council would approve. The job, it would be employed by the town, but
But I think any day now, I mean, these can start to say Town of Newmarket / Newmarket School District.
Right.
And I think you have the,
yeah, I think
The blessing of the board.
what we were looking for in terms of shared services was sort of clarity of supervisor
Right.
and supervisory role in terms of chain of command. Not that Steve and I will not work closely together, we fully expect to do that, but the idea was I would oversee the business administrator in terms of direct reporting and evaluation, and he would oversee the facilities director. And part of that is just due to the function and the scope of our roles. We have 2 schools, so they're very large facilities, but there are, a dozen other buildings that the town is also responsible for overseeing and maintaining.
So I don't know the magic words, but we may want to add something in here about OSHA, because those issues have come up in the past
Yeah.
in terms of employees working in OSHA.
MSDS they have in here, OSHA's another one. you're right.
Yeah.
Hey, for public consumption, one of the things that's not here,
I would say that is, for me, that would fit under C, but we can certainly add it specifically in terms of aptitude or competence in supervision and training of maintenance and
And
custodial.
there may be a particular OSHA section, indoor
There are
trainings, 13. right,
many,
for-
many.
Yeah. So I don't know which ones might apply, but we could
Yep.
find that out in a hurry.
well,
Yep.
and if you get to the performance responsibilities, number 17, maintains safety standards in conformance with state and insurance regulations, develops program for preventative safety,
Correct.
18 complies with all state laws and regs.
Okay.
So there's definitely, so
Great.
the one thing that's not here,
Yes.
and I appreciate that it's not here because I think that that's the magic. There's art and there's science, and the art of this, which is not scientific, it's going to be relationship-based, is what we talked about a week ago. It's about governance. What this doesn't say is 50-50, and it doesn't say 14 hours shall be dedicated to and 28 hours shall be dedicated to, because when that becomes necessary, or when it becomes the will of any of the governance bodies or models, then I think we're gonna have struggle.
Yeah.
But when it is direct report to the town administrator with responsibility for all of these buildings, accountability to council and board to try to get the job done and make sure that we have safe environment for learning, for living, for service, and so on and so forth, now we're gonna be there. So I thank you for that not sneaking its way in. Okay?
Mhm.
So,
So the next job description is for the business manager slash combined position of business manager and town finance director. That position will report to the superintendent of schools. There you see those X's partway down that first page. Again, we anticipate that this person will be the leader in the financial areas for school and municipality on a day-to-day basis. They will still be supervising personnel in, right now, what are 2 offices. And again, it will be a transition period, as we discussed in some detail at the last meeting. I'll give you-
feedback from folks? Again, I would say Newmarket School District and Town of Newmarket, or vice versa at the
Yep.
top. Oh, you know what? There's actually it says school department on the second page, but,
It should say school district.
yeah, Newmarket School District, Town of
Yep.
Newmarket, what have you, yep.
I know we were talking before about the expertise in terms of engineering. I am new to the whole process in terms of school. Are there certifications or other things that could be required for this person germane to school?
So they're not currently required, but I would say with Nate's piece, they're definitely preferred.
Okay.
And I think part of the reason we had not listed that specifically was as we were looking for people ideally with experience in both school and municipal finance, that we didn't list that specifically, but I think we could certainly add it as a preferred.
Okay.
So,
And we could ask someone to work towards that if they didn't have it.
not sure if I saw it in here, but this person would be an employee of whom?
The school department,
School department?
reporting to the
Okay.
superintendent.
Does it say that in here? Did I miss that?
We had to put it in where the X's are.
In the middle of the first
Reports to superintendent of schools.
That's reports to.
Yeah, and salary and benefits to, so that, as this would say Newmarket School District job description.
At the top.
That would be the header.
Okay.
Reports to superintendent of schools in terms of employment, salary and benefits to be established by the superintendent of schools
Okay.
and Newmarket School Board.
I didn't know if there were differences between benefits you might get at the school district versus the town, or
They're gonna be our employee,
if there's a
so
retirement.
they get ours.
Okay, okay.
there's not, that, again, those are to be determined within the scope of our operating budget, obviously.
Well, as you know, I think this is such an important position. We rely heavily on this person. I'm more comfortable with that certification.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see that in there.
So, just along the same theme, Meredith, I guess really for both of these, how are they compensated? Is there a contribution from the town to the district?
So that's the conversation, I think, for the upcoming
Okay.
budget year.
All right.
As we've discussed,
Yeah.
the recommendation of the Shared Services Committee, and really Steve's recommendation and my recommendation were that we move forward. We need someone in this role now, moving
Yeah.
into the budget cycle.
Yeah.
The town, for this transitional period, will maintain the current interim position through the budget cycle.
Mhm.
And then ultimately, as we budget for next year, we would anticipate a share of the salaries and benefits for these two positions.
And it seems like simplicity, to Nate's point, there is paramount too. You don't want to make this too complicated, you know?
So the committee, Dale Pike and Tony Weinstein came with Steve Fournier to our last meeting.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
And they kicked out, some reports, some comments, and we talked back and forth. And we got the report that Meredith just shared, that right now the plan is to move ahead with a business person
Mm.
pronto and have that person begin initially with schools and as immediately as possible begin transitioning to have a sense and a comfort level with the town side. But the town's going to keep the contracted person in place through the budget cycle so that we don't lose anything or miss anything. And then the conversation turned to facilities, and we asked Steve when he thought we might get the facilities person, and he said, I need first a police chief, then I can get back to work on facilities and some of the other positions maybe will come later. But remember, I don't have any funding on the town side. And that was when we kind of said, well,
We do.
we do,
Yeah.
so don't let it slow you down, because
Right.
you can have it, and we should get that.
Right.
And we'll, it's the same tax base, same tax nickel, so if you're gonna hire it, and it's gonna be on your books, you can have those funds, and we'll make that happen.
Mhm.
But when we get to July 1 in a new fiscal year, hopefully both sides will have approved budgets that fully fund both of those positions in a way that helps us move forward,
Mhm.
so. And I don't know how we do that, if it's, part of the conversation that is missing now, and maybe the committees, subcommittees having that, or maybe you and Steve are having it, but part of it is, for instance, in the facilities position, if you're hiring at 60 grand as a salary, you're not gonna, you may, or at 50 grand for a year, full-time, you may or you may not get a bachelor's in engineering and the background you want. Likewise, if this position, which on the school side was paying in the early 90s last year, is something that combined we want to pay 75 for, we're not going to get a master's degree, which, I got some comments that I would offer up, but I'm trying to scale myself into, I don't know what our intention is, right? So I think part of that conversation, you guys are kind of duking it out and trying to get there, but if we're hiring a business administrator and they're taking on town finance and it's one kind of job, that's a different price tag than, so, we don't have all of that
Right.
tonight, but I think that's a conversation.
Well, that's
before-
correct. When we
Before
bring
budgets get
you-
nailed down, we need to know, so.
Yes, before budgets get nailed down, but when we bring you a recommendation for hiring, we will bring that with a salary and benefits proposal. But certainly, you're absolutely right. In order to attract good
Yeah.
people to these positions, we need to offer competitive salary and benefits for the scope of the position that we're asking people to fill.
And I think, from being on the subcommittee, the concept is to hire the experts that have the skills that we need to get the best work that we can for the town and the schools, both. When I say town, I mean everyone collectively. So I would not support going from 90 to 75 because I don't see how that serves anybody.
Right. Well, so let me try to answer some of the, you guys know I have an opinion, and I've tried to share some of that with Meredith, and what I don't want to do is I don't want to get in the way of the greater community of Newmarket considering this shared service, and so I don't want to persuade us to do something that would be contrary to that. Let me say this. I'm a decade and a half as a school business official in New Hampshire. recognized at the federal level, at the national level. I'm on the board of the New Hampshire School Business Officials Association. It's difficult for me. I've printed out a bunch of stuff. I want to make sure everybody walks away knowing that in certification of leadership in schools, they list superintendent and assistant superintendent and business administrator. And then they list principals and curriculum administrators and special ed administrators. It's not because they're more important, but it's when the legislature and those who write the ed regulations and rules put it together, they conceived of a certified position for a reason. But I also don't want to contradict and take the wind out of the sails of our superintendent, who's working hard with the town administrator to actually fill the position with somebody that's got skills that can help us on both sides of the house here, school and town. So here's what I can't do. As an advocate for the profession and a leader in the field, it's hard for me to suggest that my community should not hire itself a certified business administrator with a master's degree and a strong background and be a powerful member of a leadership team, et cetera, But I am comfortable just stepping back and being quiet and saying, do me this favor. The job description doesn't speak to a business administrator. This is not a school business administrator, a certified business administrator's job description. This is not strategic. This is not a leadership role responsible for, this is a high-level bookkeeper, kind of finance director, which is great. I wouldn't call it a business manager, or I would call it a finance director. Town and school, let it be a finance director. Then it can have a bachelor's degree and it doesn't have to be certified. And there are a few smaller districts in the state that continue to do this. It isn't required, and they don't go to certification. They don't spend the extra nickel and they don't hire that. And as a result, I mean, I might speak to a couple of things, and I can give you that. Handbook 2R are the standards that we're governed by, and I might throw that in. But this doesn't necessarily offer up leadership to finance and human resources and risk management and the ancillary services, although there is a reference made to transportation and cafeteria. But, like you just said, the facilities director is going to report to the town administrator, not the business administrator. Well, in a lot of districts, when you hire a certified BA at the level that they hire, they supervise technology and facilities and all of those things. We've got an assistant superintendent on board. We don't necessarily want our superintendent, who I want to follow the lead of, doesn't necessarily want another leader like that. She may have a solid team, and she has different needs now, and so does Steve, so.
Yeah, what I would say is, first of all, I wrote in minimum of bachelor's degree in business administration, accounting, or related field. New Hampshire DOE certification as business administrator or eligibility for such certification. Handbook 2R, to me, that falls under applicable federal, state, and local funding requirements and financial reporting. I mean, that's an example of that.
Absolutely.
But yes, I want a high-level capable person. I don't know what we're going to find.
Right.
And this is a new position, and I want some flexibility in a position. We want to find the best possible candidate we can find to do this job. If we don't find a strong person, we'll keep looking. I'm not a I'm not a believer in settling for the sake of filling a job. But some of those responsibilities, I hope it will evolve into taking on some of those, but I can't tell you today exactly how that's going to work out, and neither can Steve, because we haven't stepped into it yet. So I think it's very likely that we'll come back to you a year from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now for revisions to the job description. But right now, I think this is a basic outline of the primary responsibilities for this job, which are making sure that the town and school finance are in good order, that we're following all the laws and rules that we have to follow, that procedurally we're doing exactly what we need to do. They are supervising the finance office staff, overseeing HR and benefits and those very complicated yet important pieces of the work that we do in a school system. Again, the facilities position is also new. Our BA has in the past taken on some of the responsibilities for some of that training that hopefully a facilities director will be able to manage pieces of. So there's going to be some sharing and some evolution of this position as it moves forward. I think what we have tried to provide you with is an understanding, sort of a combined understanding from Steve and I about what the very basic pieces that we need to be in place, and we're certainly shooting as high as we can. We'll talk in a minute about the hiring process, but we've received over a dozen applications. I feel very good about that. People are beginning to screen those applications. I think we feel like we have a good pool of folks that we will be interviewing, and I'm confident right now that we're going to find a great person to fill this job. And again, if we don't, I won't be bringing you a recommendation at this point. Or Steve and I will say, look, we can't find a way right now to fill both of our needs. We may need to press the pause button. I don't foresee that at this moment based on what I've seen. But I want you to know that I won't, neither will Steve, charge ahead if we don't think it's the right thing to do.
What I see, I'm going to simplify this. I mean, I've heard nothing but wonderful things about opening day, about the teacher's opening day, what we heard today, utilizing a data manager. Right now, it looks like we're just going to rock. And I love it, and I want to see whoever comes in jump on board and be part of it. I don't want a dud. And whatever we need to get that person, I think I put my trust in you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't want a dud either.
I know. I know.
I promise you. I do not want to make filling out state financial reports part of my, ongoing work life. Again, on a temporary basis, I'm quite happy to do any of those things, as any of us would, as any member of my team would.
I'm just so
But I
grateful that
want
you're
an
doing
expert in the seat doing the work.
We're grateful that you're here to help us get back on the right direction. And that's what this is just, and I think, again, this is so hard for us
Of course.
to say, here's the keys to the castle. So this is just us protecting what we can. And I think that's where Nathan's heart is coming from.
Absolutely, and it's your job and it's your responsibility. So it's your heart, but it's also very much what you were elected to do. So again, it's for you to approve this job description or not. It will be for you to approve a hire or not when we bring one forward.
I agree with everything that was just said, but just for my own education, what hoops or qualifications you need to obtain to have your certificate? I mean, versus somebody who doesn't.
Do you want to speak? You can
Well,
certainly speak to that. I don't, as the
Reader's
board
Digest.
member,
I mean,
let you-
listen, not every state has certification for the business office. So
There's a set of standards.
they're the set of standards,
By the
which you won't want
Department
to
of Ed.
read while you're sitting here, but it's qualifications in educational organization, financial resource management, human resource management, facility and property management, information management, risk management, people transportation, food service, experience and expertise in education, behavioral science, and organizational theory. But having said that, if you want to, you can go take a 5-course, a series of 5 classes, assuming that you've already got a bachelor's degree in something relevant. You can take 5 more classes at Southern New Hampshire or Plymouth State. They've had certification programs endorsed by the state for years.
And in the
And you can
same
go
way
through
that
an
we-
alternative, the same way you can for other programs. You can go through an alternative certification, and the state will do a transcript review and say, look, you've taken classes like this. I look at your resume, and you've worked in these kinds of roles. Work with a mentor who will say, you should focus on these 3 things and grab more information or more knowledge in these competencies, and having done that, the plan can be approved and you can be certified. So most who are even, if a candidate is going to be seriously considered by Meredith and by Steve, they probably are certifiable, meaning, or eligible for certification, that a review by the state would say, you've got the goods to at least be hired. Now put yourself on a certification plan, and over the next 3 years, you can wrap it up.
And that's not unlike what we do with teachers,
Right.
Particularly in harder to fill areas, right? It's not uncommon for us to hire a teacher who has a letter of eligibility for certification, who is working on a plan to obtain full certification over a period of time. Again, whenever we can, we hire the most qualified person, and we would endeavor to do that in this process as well.
And you've actually overseen a person in this dual role recently.
And that person would have held a certification.
Yeah.
And brought, the pieces to the table that Nate just described.
So this
The
goes.
veteran that she supervised when she first started at Cape was, she was one of the leaders in the tri-state region who we all looked up to and appreciated the work. Maine don't certify. In New Hampshire, she would not only have been certified or certifiable, she'd have been a trainer, or a mentor to others, so.
Okay.
So I think we can live goal number 2 this evening by deferring to our highly qualified superintendent on this issue. But thanks for that background. I don't know.
Hey, listen, I try to be always transparent, and just so I have to say, I have argued with superintendents and school boards in the past that their district, their community deserves a certified administrator in this role, the same way that they hired a certified superintendent and principal, certified teachers. Why would they not certify this role as well? And the state has a mechanism in place. It would be really, for me, unconscionable for me to sit here and smile pretty and not say the same thing to my own community, right? So, but again, like I said, I don't want to get in the way of the superintendent doing the right thing with the
No,
administrator.
I appreciate, Nate, that level of expertise that you possess, because I don't have it. I don't have the knowledge, and so you bring a perspective to it that I would not have, so I appreciate you, giving us all this background data that I might not have otherwise.
So,
Thank you.
It actually makes my stomach
So-
hurt to even think about this position. It's like, I just watched RSAU struggle the last couple of years, and I would love to see somebody that's just jumps on and is a part of this team. That's what I look forward to.
I anticipate hiring another strong team member.
Great, so do
so
we
she
need to,
needs
we need to
action on
act?
that agenda, on that, job description.
So are you okay with changing that wording?
I'm, like I
So
said.
I can reread the
yeah.
amendments that I've made to it, so beginning with the title, the Newmarket School District job description, under education and certification, minimum of bachelor's degree, maintaining the rest of that sentence, adding an additional bullet, it says New Hampshire DOE certification as business administrator or eligibility for that certification, and then reports to superintendent of schools. And terms of employment, salary and benefits to be established by the superintendent of schools / Newmarket School Board.
Question, because we just kind of went through this, about the reporting chain of command. Should you put to you or your designee?
Oh, good point.
No, I'd like it to be superintendent of schools.
But in your absence?
It's still reports to is typically speaks to evaluation. I mean, anyone can be designated in my short-term absence to oversee as my designee, but the responsibility is to report to the superintendent. I mean, I'm at a high level responsible for the budget. Business administrator is here and related to that, but yeah, I would prefer to maintain that direct report.
One of the questions I did have, Steve made a comment about, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but his comment was something like, I'm on board, I'm really committed. Remember, I'm giving up
Having a deputy.
having a deputy, essentially. Is he giving that up? I mean, is that where we're looking right now, is that this person would not stand in as the assistant town administrator in his absence?
No, I think I think the
Depends on who you get
anxiety
and the possibility.
is, right, what are we gonna find in this pool? But again, I think as we look for a strong candidate, we want someone who ideally has both school and municipal experience and who is able to step in realistically for either of us in a
Right.
given circumstance.
But we have the assistant superintendent.
We do,
too.
correct.
Again, that's why, when you asked, that's why we put that position as a second, because we ran into all the problems where we didn't have that second for the last 2 years, so at least we have that. So Steve won't have, that's what, when he says he's giving up his deputy, he doesn't have.
Because in a lot of cases, the finance officer in the towns carries that designation.
And still can.
And still can. I just wasn't sure if, again, I went back to the job description, I thought, wow, this doesn't look quite as bold as you might want if that person's going to stand in when Steve's away, so.
So no sooner did I I cite Rule 2 that I just violated it. So
Right.
we stop at Meredith, she handles the rest.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
And then I'll have one question, one little thing. So if we have that certification, these qualifications, 1 through 8, are in there. That this
Means
person's
that this-
certified.
It means that
then
the state has,
we have this.
through a
This is-
series of competencies, has judged that that person meets those standards, yeah.
Okay.
Same as, like Meredith said, same as any of our certified teaching positions, administrative positions, the like, so.
Yep.
So, I seek a motion.
I move to accept the Newmarket School District Business Manager / Town Finance Manager position with the amendments listed.
Second.
Any more discussion? You guys will allow me to abstain from this one as I will from the hiring process because it's hard not to find myself motivated in one direction or another. Thank you very much. Have a motion from Mr. Kennison, a second from, I have a motion from Ms. Shelton, a second from Mr. Kennison to accept the amended job description for the position just discussed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Then note us 3-0 and 1 with 1 abstention. The kid who wants to keep himself out of the line of fire.
No, I
But you're
think
not done with go ahead.
It's good.
But you have a unique interest in
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
So I,
trust me, it's been a difficult interest to maintain when you sit at this table, so. There's a reason why there's not a lot of people that try to do this. There's not that many people that are that crazy, so. It's hard to live in both camps. As I got the resolutions today in the mail at home, I opened up the resolutions from the School Boards Association, and a couple of them made me go, "Ugh," because as a school administrator, I wanted to ask them, what are you thinking? But you should have seen me the day I went to the annual meeting up there. Oh my, I was the only guy in the room getting paid by a school district, looking around thinking, we do not all think the same, do we? It's really very interesting because administrators and school boards in many cases are lockstep on how we deliver to kids, but it was a lot of political strife that night and some of the comments and conversation were just, they were talking about, among other things, Common Core, but there wasn't a single educator in the room who could speak to what Common Core was. And I was a little timid to raise my hand and take the line of fire. But
It's probably best.
anyway, want to finish this process?
Please. So we, as I indicated, we had posted for the position. We've received applications. We have over a dozen. The school district and town members of the hiring committee have already begun screening those applications. And as I mentioned last week, we would like a school board member to screen those applications as well. Ideally, very soon, because our hope is to interview late next week for first round interviews.
What's your, so,
You know, tonight, tomorrow,
tomorrow?
early Tuesday.
I'll do it.
how's your time? Are you available then?
Yeah.
I don't know where,
I know there's been some talk last week about Al.
Al had said he was interested, but I'm not sure if he's
we don't know if he's
around and
available.
available, so let's, okay.
That's fine.
Perfect.
So we
So,
can connect and set up a
I'll
time for
name,
you.
Just let me know.
I'll name Kimberly Shelton to represent the board on the hiring committee for that position. Thank you. Anything else under shared services? For Mike's consumption and to restate for the board, for the public, the conversation last week was that we should expect the possibility of another combined meeting, probably in October.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we are going to go, Al and Meredith and I are going to go to the town council meeting next week as they came to ours last week.
Perfect.
So-
Thank you. Okay. Under the topic of facilities.
Yeah, well, we continue to do our due diligence. We had a meeting last night. I'll talk about that in a moment. First, I'd like to start off by talking about a tour we took last Saturday of, in Fank, I guess, the Portsmouth Middle School. We toured their cafetorium because there's nothing like actually seeing things, and several of us here toured it as a concept. It's much bigger, obviously, than what we would need here in Newmarket, but the concept applied. In what it is, it's a lot different than what we may think when you hear that word, 1970s cafetorium, or maybe what we've got down at the elementary school right now. It's much different. It's built for performances. It's also built for, hosting lunches. But what struck me the most about this space was it's a space that's used all the time. So you have a lunchroom with acoustical panels on the ceiling, with lighting, with natural day lighting and stage lighting, sound systems. And you have, the magic of it is the wall, the separation wall, which is a high quality, not soundproof, but sound resistant wall that's easily moved back and forth, and it's right on the stage. And so behind that you have a room that's used full time. It's a music room. And there's all sorts of nuances in it. We're going to put up a video. We took some video of that so people who didn't make it can see. There's an explanation of that. And what was neat about it is the principal got up there on stage, or the assistant principal on the stage, and actually we could hear the acoustics. She wasn't yelling. It wasn't tinny. I mean, you could hear. I mean, it was great. But the key part of it, unlike perhaps some auditoriums that may not see as much use, both of these spaces can be used all the time for multi-functions. They had a storage space for the folding seats that you would put in to the cafeteria for performance. They're not chintzy, low-quality seats. They're comfortable seats where you could sit and watch a show for 2 hours and be very comfortable. And it's intriguing because you can set them up in whatever arrangement you want, an oval, lined up like here, or whatever you want. So it's just like, it seems like a really win-win. It serves all purposes, and we're not, you wouldn't be building a space that sort of may sit idle too long. So that was really helpful to see that. And so we had a meeting last night. We had the civil engineer, Brad Mosquita, joined us. They've been doing work at all of the sites, the elementary site, the Carpenter site, and the existing junior-senior high school site, to give us their input on civil engineering issues, site issues. And again, that was a recorded meeting last night, so people can catch the full length of that. But to give you the gist of it, we do have some site challenges, not surprisingly, in a, not an urban area, but in a residential area in town. We have underground utility issues. They are achievable challenges, but I think over the next couple of weeks there'll be a lot of work between Brad and Ingrid, our architect, to address those situations. And all of that is part of a broader effort to come up with preliminary estimates. And we're still, I think, on track by and large to have those within the next month or so. And at that point, hold a public session with these. I say again, they're preliminary estimates. More work will need to be done, but to give people an idea of the various options and what may be feasible, and maybe some things that aren't, and there'll be things that'll be broken out of that in terms of maybe a field. There'll be a price on that. There'll be a price to do this. Everything will be listed out. So ultimately, the public can weigh in on that, and the school board can make meaningful decisions. I'm probably going to miss some stuff because the architect has been having meetings with the staff, with the various departments in town here, fire, I think Mike Hoffman as well, and the police department as well. So there's a lot going on. Again, all our meetings are public. We welcome people to come to them, and also they're online. And finally, we had a meeting, Meredith, I don't know if you spoke about this. You did speak about
Briefly
last
last
week.
I saw that in the minutes at DES, and I don't know if it bears me going over again or quickly.
I don't think it hurts
Okay,
to
so
keep people informed.
yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. We met in Concord during the day. Ingrid joined us, and Meredith and I went, and there were 2 DES representatives there that deal with wetland issues, one local person and one who's out of the Concord office. There was a EPA representative on the phone from Boston, and then a representative of the Army Corps of Engineers. And simply, this is a standard meeting they have now. It's at the beginning of a project. If you have wetlands issues, they try to give you an overview of what your options may be.
and frankly, what your costs may be. And so we went through that, and as we know, we have wetlands on the Carpenter property, although if you go out there now, they're not so wet, but that doesn't change their designation. And one of the, actually the options we had over there for both a potential school and/or fields infringed about 1.5 acres of these wetlands. And I came away from the meeting with a couple of, with some points of clarity. You may remember, if you've been paying attention, we met with Jim Gove, who's a wetlands consultant, last December, went over some of this. But just to reiterate, what we would be facing over there if we use the wetlands is you have to mitigate them. You have to essentially replace them, and there are various methods to do that. There's a process by which you can mitigate through setting aside other land in town or having other conservation projects happen. And just to give people an idea of that, there's if you're going to look for a replacement of land, it's a 15-to-1 ratio. If we use 1 acre, we got to find 15 to replace it of contiguous land or some other mitigation approach, maybe taking maybe dam work or restoration work or something like that. So in essence, to use that 1.5 acres, we need about 22.5 acres of land to supplant it. I'm oversimplifying this, but I don't need to get more in the weeds than I am. But so that's on its face, a daunting challenge. But what you would do there is they don't hold your feet strictly to the rule, but you need to make a good faith effort and go through that, usually with your Conservation Commission, to find out if that's feasible in your town. If barring that, if you cleared that hurdle and it's not doable, then you would probably pay into the ARM fund, which is a fund that the state has to basically pay in based on how much acreage you use, wetland acreage. And the state has a large fund where they use that to buy or put easements on other valuable wetlands across the state. So the bottom line there, is we were told, is that it would be, for that 1.5 acres to pay into the ARM fund, would be roughly $300,000 to do that. And that's just for the mitigation, and to build on wetlands obviously is a whole another engineering issue. It's generally more expensive than to build on uplands. So we went through that. This is all part of the due diligence. It's not to suggest that we're going to or not going to do something over there, but these are just, these are costs that we need to know to consider the whole picture. So that's a facilities update, Meredith. I don't know if I've left out anything.
No,
Yeah.
in terms of meetings with staff, you mentioned meetings with Mike Hoffman and Rick Molaski. Those have occurred. Also meetings with our custodial staff, our head custodians in each building, and our retired head custodian who had some long history with the building, as well as we've had additional meetings with building principals and Chris Andruski, just to sort of look again at, okay, if we are, as our civil engineer identified, we've got some of these challenges around where utilities are located, sort of looking at possible reconfigurations. So the architects are going to be, based on the information from all of those sources, and civil engineer, potentially making some tweaks to the drawings that we shared publicly, those conceptual drawings that we shared not too long ago. Ekman will simultaneously be doing some cost estimating, and again, we hope to have that information back, and ideally we'll be sharing that out with the public within the next month or so. We also are in the process of trying to streamline our website piece around facilities a bit. We have all of our videos and all of our meetings and all of our minutes posted off of a link on our existing site. It's all there, but we're hoping to sort of streamline that information to make it a little bit more digestible and easy to follow for people moving forward. So that work is going on behind the scenes as well.
I had a conversation at work today about facilities, and I'm hearing that the market continues to be in a period of escalation, costs increasing 5 to 8%. Anybody can crystal ball on their own where we think the bond market, the interest rates are going to go, depending on what the Fed does, et cetera. That may be less of a time-sensitive thing, but it's just frustrating because as we talk, anything that we might want to do is getting more expensive. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time commitment, the thoroughness, the due diligence that's being done, the transparency with which we're doing it, because, you know, we all, I'm sure, hope that we're getting closer and closer to doing this right and being done with it and having a good solution for our community, so. Anything else? Facilities, okay?
Nope.
How about communications? You just mentioned the website, so.
Yeah, I have a newsletter, just a general sort of welcome back newsletter that should be going out tomorrow if all things go as planned. If not, people will receive that at the beginning of next week. That's got upcoming dates and some of those pieces of information in it, as well as some summaries of some of the items that we've talked about tonight. And we hope, Kim and I have spoken about making a place for there to be some school board information included as needed. I expect to send newsletters out on about at least a monthly basis at this point, and certainly if there are important pieces of information that we need to send out, they will go home as appropriate additionally.
Excellent. Okay. We have minutes in the packet. They are the minutes of August 25th, 2016. I would ask for a motion to approve.
I move to accept the approval of minutes, August 25th, 2016.
Second.
Did anybody see anything that needs adjustment or attention? Okay, hearing none, I have a motion from Ms. McKinney, a second from Ms. Shelton. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have an abstention, 301. Did the acoustics just change in here? Because all of a sudden I'm hearing my own voice. Okay. Anything else? All right, then the manifests are here tonight.
I move that we accept the accounts payable manifest dated September 1st, 2016 in the amount of $198,074.96.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion from Ms. Shelton, a second from Mr. Kennison, approving the manifest presented this evening. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we're unanimous. Any reason for non-public tonight?
Not that I'm aware.
Anything else from the board? We get dinner. Let's seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Ms. McKinney, a second from Mr. Kennison. Everyone have a great night. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're unanimous. Thank you. Good night.
Jen, do you need
I
this?
can't tell if the board is, how's the board tied? Don't they